Okay, my name is Jan. I'm a researcher in what I call artistic biotechnology, so it's not bioart. You probably heard about bioart. Bioart is a no-go. It's very, very dirty, evil person do it. We don't like it. No, it's just, it's like bioart is a very blurry term. And I learned the hard way with a lot of, angry people and me crying that terminology is important and you have to just get it right. So this is not about bioart, it's about artistic biotechnology. Now, what is bioart? What is artistic biotechnology? Honestly, I don't know what bioart is. I just see that a lot of people label as bioart and then do something very exploitive, very bad to a non-human life form. And then they say, oh, it's so great, it's collaborative. So like they're using the notions of labor, like capitalism. It's like, oh, so you're appropriating non-human labor for your artwork. That's bad. That's really bad. Why tea drinking when it's about artistic biotechnology? Well, because the longest running biotech we have ongoing is actually with tea. I mean, yes, CRISPR-Cas9, woo, final touches done in Lithuania, Nobel Prize to Lithuania. Amazing. Did you know that? Dudna? In Vilnius. So,
DNA person?
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot his surname. What was it again?
I forgot his surname.
Okay.
Dudna is the last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody thinks about CRISPR-Cas9, all the fancy gene editing thing. Yes, that's also biotechnology, but brewing a cup of tea or what kind of transformation the tea leaves undergoes before it ends up in our kettle, that's already like pretty advanced biotechnology. And it's been practiced for at least 2,500 years that we know of. Might be longer. So why all of this is so exciting for people that work with mushrooms, we will be drinking pu'ers, like real pu'ers. Post-fermented teas that are from Yunnan are actually called pu'er. It's a little bit like when you say champagne, but your mousseau is not from Alonso Champagne. So post-fermented tea is done by a whole microbiota of fungi, molds, mostly aspergilli, and some beneficial bacteria that transform the tea even more. So we're not only drinking a plant, we're drinking something fancy, fungi. I have some cultures prepared. We can look at them later so you would see what's growing inside there. So this is fascinating. I mean, a tea fermented by a fungus, and we are down to my research field. So this is the Chinik. It's a fancy Chinik. Doesn't need to be. I mean, we could also go through lengths, and that's the point of that our bodies are amazing high-tech tools for the laboratory. So if we would look at the water, what are we drinking first? Yes. Now, if you look at ancient Chinese texts where people were brewing Gung Fu style, I'll explain what Gung Fu is in a minute, there are like protocols on how to tell exactly how hot is the water by determining the size of the bubbles that form in the kettle and the sound it makes. It's actually quite fun. So, and also, I mean, it's a rite of passage, but with your pinky, or some other finger, but pinky works for me, you can determine how hot is the water and kind of train yourself, like, okay, this is 70 degrees, this is 70 degrees, so you train yourself to say like, oh, this is 70 degrees, which is just right for pinnacle Japanese green tea, which we are not drinking today because it's kind of late. Next time. So, but this Chinik helps a lot, especially when I'm like blah-blahing away. Then we have our fancy scales. Why? Because we always want to get the perfect cup of tea. And that is what Gung Fu is. Gung Fu is like the same like Kung Fu, and it means like doing the best you can through discipline and understanding. That's it. No religious bullshit. This is not a ceremony. This is not like in Japanese Buddhism, it's like mu and ku, or ku and mu, like the emptiness and the blah blah. It's like the empty thoughtless brain emptiness. Yeah, you know about Buddhism, right? So instead of telling you what to feel in a particular moment, we will just try to make the best possible cup of tea. So everything we do here actually makes sense from a biotech point of view. Amazing. I mean, even there's some ceremony to this, you know, that the Japanese, they have some fancy tools. We have some here. Yeah, fancy small cups. So there's some tools to grab them, yeah, and then you can submerge them in water, and then you have this tool to give it, which actually just shows the level of cleanliness, that it's actually clean. I'm not, you know, in Japan, you have this is a fancy religious Japanese rag in your mind now, and there's this way how I should wrap it. And it's like the exact way how I should do it, how often I should do it, and that I should have really an empty mind while I'm doing this. That's just the difference. It doesn't mean that this is better or worse, but for our purposes, understanding biotechnology in order to be able to compose with or for other than human and human life forms, we want to understand or not be caught up in some religious pommes funèbres, right? So, while the Chinese is heating up, we're heating up to 95 degrees. Thank you for being here. Yes, this is a tradition from China. Basically, it evolved probably somewhere around Yunnan. Yunnan province is like where still today is like the biggest tea industries, and where exactly these pu'ers, post-fermented teas, come from. There's a town called Pu'er City. Never been there, sadly. Never been to China. Somebody been to China?
No. Japan, though.
Yes.
No.
Japan. Japan. Nobody to Japan. Oh. Yeah, see, we're all on the same level. So, one more of those. I was drinking for 25 years straight Japanese green tea, and I didn't care about Gung Fu at all. I tried some Chinese green teas, but I have this big iron cast teapot, which works perfectly for like this brothy, very rich in umami Japanese green teas. But it doesn't work at all for this more delicate Yunnan teas. So I always tried, like, well, it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work. Until I found out that, yeah, I know why it doesn't work, because I don't have the right method of preparation. Again, biotechnology. It's like you have to have the right tool and the right technique for doing the right thing. Yeah, so I just recently got into Gung Fu brewing about a year ago, because I forgot my teapot somewhere. I don't know where, but I was not there where my teapot was. So I was looking for easy ways, transportable ways, that are also not expensive if something breaks, and this is where I came across the Gaiwan. Now Gaiwan, super fancy biotech thing, as you can see here, like wow, like 2,000 years of engineering. Gaiwan, lidded bowl. Oh, that's it. Oh, it's a bowl with a lid. Nothing fancy. Well, this is a saucer. You don't need it. Yes. So it will even keep the temperature, so I can keep on blah blahing. Yes. So basically, it looks very simple, but it's a high-tech tool. We'll get to that in a minute. Why it's such a high-tech tool? I mean, it does the job, which is perfect. So it doesn't need to be expensive or crazy. I like it because it has this weird 1960s Europe Melita style, but it's a contemporary Korean Gaiwan, by the way, if you're into porcelain and stuff. Come from a porcelain family. So my family worked for 3 generations in the trade till it went bankrupt. So the tin comes with recommendations, which is convenient. So it's a good starting point. But we will deviate a little bit from it because it's not about how to do it right, it's about how to get it just right as we like it. So even from a medical point of view, if you want to get all the health benefits from pu'er tea, which is like claimed cholesterol lowering, etc., etc. So we're trying to enjoy the tea, and that means we want to control the extraction, so we extract just what we want. So we have a very enjoyable cup of tea. So that's why we're exactly going for, as prescribed, 5 grams. No, because it's 100 milligram silica. Silica, fancy. Actually, just amorphous glass. We go exactly for 5 grams for 100 grams of water, because in Gung Fu brewing we have a much higher leaf to water ratio, as like in Western style brewing. Means we will have these tiny cups, but it will be quite strong tea. And also, we can brew it quite often. So, for Western style, you would have much more water on much less leaves, but then it would also mean you would only brew it for 1 or 2 times. We will brew this young Gung Fu, which is like already fancy, 12 times. So I will use my chiculator. Chiculator is a super fancy high-tech tool that the amazing Tata Frenkel, young artist from Vilnius, made for me. It's a commissioned piece. Because when I'm not blah-blahing, I'm zoning out. Since I get lost in public transport and stuff like that, I forget how many times I infuse the tea. So I know this is 8, and then 10, and then another 2, and then I know that we have 12 infusions that we can make. And it's like, amazing, right? This is a real high-tech tool. It's the newest edition. Get this here so you can see it, because I will forget about it. So I need you or one person of you to be responsible to remind me, move one of the beads. No, you don't have to decide now. You can just go with the flow. Okay, next thing. So we don't need this fancy tool anymore. Actually, scales like high precision scales are forbidden in some countries because they are associated with drug trade. We don't live in one of those countries. Very good.
How many grams you put?
5.1. Because I was feeling like, well, why saving? YOLO. Yopfel. Speaking of Buddhism, you only live probably a few times. Now we will do something there's lots of misunderstanding. I will also sit down now. Sometimes you hear that people say like, you should discard the first infusions for numerous reasons. Always shady reasons. Sometimes people say because of pesticides or something. We don't worry too much about pesticides because we drink pinnacle teas. Why we don't need to worry? Because from an economical point of view, and from a very interesting biotech point of view, we don't need to worry too much about pesticides in these teas. So the first reason is, just brew a tea. Keep on blah-blahing. So I will not throw away the first infusion, I will wash the tea. Not because it's dirty. Although there are some points where you actually want to wash the teas because they are kind of... Yes, smell this. Smell this and describe the smell. While I try to get ahead of myself and explain what this is. Oh. It's not pleasant, right?
It's pleasant, actually.
It's pleasant. Oh, you're a weird person. I like you. Seaweed? Mm-hmm. 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 I think it's actually unpleasant.
Really?
I think it smells unpleasant, yes.
Something in between.
Now if I say, I'll let you smell, and then I say how I perceive it.
Something between hay and fish, actually.
Fish, thank you. I think it tastes like squid.
Squid.
Well, meanwhile, smell this one. So I think it's kind of has this fishy, squiddy smell. Yes, that's because of the fermentation that the post-fermented tea undergoes, and that's why in this case we would wash this tea to get rid of that squiddy, fishy taste. Actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, it works. But now we didn't do that because this is a Gung Fu. So what does it mean? That's from April 2000, this year, 2022. So it has been meant to be like a ripe pu'er, like this. This is from 1996. So it's like a true millennial. But this is raw. So this is from this year, and instead of putting it into these small dimples, also pass this around to play with.
Like wine, does it get better with time?
Like wine, it tends to get better till a certain amount of time, and then it becomes more expensive. But we don't know if it really gets better, because only the person who buys this very expensive thing and then actually drinks it tells it, and that person, if they want to protect their investment, they will probably say, yes, amazing.
So what happens when it keeps on fermenting?
Well, this is dry fermented, so it will continue to very slowly break down certain metabolites into smaller metabolites, amino acids. So it will continue to shave off hard edges and hopefully develop diversity in aromatics. So it should be very good, but I don't know. It really also depends on the taste. So it really depends on the taste. So you can have, it's like wine. You can have a really good bottle of wine, of just young wine, Heuriger, Grüner Veltliner or something like that. And you can have an old bottle of wine that just tastes like vinegar.
So can it be a little bit like rum, perhaps, where, like, I guess 18-year-old rum might be a little bit less good than actually like a 12-year-old rum, right? So
exactly, but it can also be better.
You have a preference in taste, whether you prefer something that would like better for 12 months rather than 18, and vice versa.
Yes, and of course we are also biased, because we live in capitalism. It's about buying. So I always bias myself towards I don't need this expensive tea. Maybe I enjoy the slightly less expensive tea much more. So I don't know if it's true, but I prefer 12-year-old Havana over the 18-year-old Havana Club. But also it comes with the price point. I think the 12-year-old Havana has a good, very, very good price margin, because the 3-year-old Havana Club is, compared to the 12-year-old, it's actually expensive. And the 18-year-olds, it is again expensive. And this 12-year-old Havana Club is, for me and my taste, just it's the amount that I'm willing to spend to have a good Cuba Libre.
But not because it's just, older, mainly because you just prefer it, right?
Yeah, well, I would say it is a little bit brighter in taste, while it still already has all that mellow flavors. And I personally don't think the 18-year-old lives up to the price point. But again, it really comes down to personal preference.
It does.
But I think this bias towards, it's actually also more money that you need to spend, is something that I know I'm biased towards. So I don't go for these super expensive teas. But I have an example of a tea that is cheap, and also you can taste that. So it doesn't mean it's cheap. It's just, it tastes like it should taste like.
It has a lot to do with preparation as well. So, for example, like a 10-year-old shitty wine might be not as good as like a well-made 5-year-old wine, and same thing goes with tea. Like,
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be mega expensive as long as you actually prep it correctly.
Exactly.
And as to the best of your knowledge.
Exactly. And this is what this is about. But
So to be clear, at this point, where are we?
I think we're at a moderate. If you compare this to marijuana on the black market, then it's like we're all good. We're like a moderate. I think like something like 80 cents per gram.
That's quite a bit, actually.
While 1 gram of marijuana is more expensive, a higher price margin, and we don't even know if that is organically grown, because we have to buy it in the black market. So there's no chain of.
But isn't that the same when you buy marijuana and maybe it's with chemicals and chemicals are pricey?
Well, that's why you smoke a joint before you buy it. So basically, this is a young gushu. It is prepared to be aged, but instead of aging it, we're pulling it before the aging process and drinking it fresh, because it actually is amazing. So we didn't wash it, but we rehydrated the leaves and we warmed them a little bit so we get consistency in brewing. Because the first brew would be, you know, it would still need to take in that water and everything. And now we prepped it. And we didn't waste that water. We put it in the gongdao. Ooh, gongdao. Again, fancy word. It means like justice cup or the cup of fairness. We're using this because, you know, when you brew, when you put the water in, then you get, like it's like in sauna. If you want to have it hot, then you go up. And if you don't want it that hot, you stay low. Because there's this layering. And we have the same with concentrations. So on the very top, there's the lowest concentration of metaboloids that we are going to extract, and the further down, it's stronger. And if I would start pouring like this to the cups, the first cup would be very light, and the subsequent cups would be stronger. That's unfair. So we put it in the gongdao to equalize it out, and then we can all enjoy the same mix. So, and I'm pouring away the washing water, but I warmed the gongdao with it, and it's also a thermal cup, so the tea doesn't get cold with me blah blahing. So, what does it say on the tin? 25 seconds, and then we add 5 seconds. That's just a starting point. Why not? 95 degrees.
Can I mix some things?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, that's the first infusion. And I'm doing now already a non-traditional technique, because this is what it's about. Because we're so many people, and instead of like, oh, the first drink tea, and then wait while the second have to drink tea, the first can't drink tea, we're just going to stack the infusion. Fancy stacking infusions, also super not fancy. It means just I combine the first and the second infusion. It's just functional. It will even out a little bit the brew. So the poureurs tend to, in my opinion, especially working with this poureur, it tends to be a little bit soft on the first infusion. Probably because the washing, the rehydration just takes really a foothold in the second infusion. So,
Don't forget the bead.
Thank you. 2 beads, oh? So yes, 2 beads it should be. So, now smell the leaves and compare in your mind to how they smelled before that. Because there's one amazing thing now happening that also sounds like super lame, but it keeps on like fascinating me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. What you taste in this cup now, you cannot smell in these leaves anymore, because we just took it out. Doesn't sound too fancy at all, right? But I think that for me that's actually profound, because this is what it's all about. Feel free to slurp or do whatever you think is inappropriate, because this is not a ceremony, it's not about good manners, it's about enjoying your cup of tea. And because this is also kind of a, community building and everything. You're welcome. This was the first time I'm serving you. The next time I'm just passing that thing around. And also there's no hierarchy and everything. Yeah, who likes hierarchies? It's important to be aware of hierarchies, because there are hierarchies, and hierarchies are not necessarily bad, but if hierarchies are hollow, then they are bad. But if we do not acknowledge that there are hierarchies, it's like, we don't have hierarchies, we cannot talk about the problem that we have a hierarchy. I needed that. Okay. No. 1,800 meters of elevation. It's the bud and up to the third leaf. It comes from Lida village in Linqiang in Yunnan in China. It is the Daishong cultivar. So they're different cultivars, but they're all Camellia sinensis sinensis or Camellia sinensis assamica, while these are all sinensis sinensis. And it's from 300-year-old trees. Now let's go back to this issue of why we shouldn't be too much afraid about pesticides. Yeah, keep on drinking and passing the good stuff. Now, something that I learned when working with fungi is that a little bit of moderate stress is actually a beneficial thing. You know, when you're laying on your couch and you get everything you get, dangerous anthropomorphizing, unreferenced blah blah hypothesis. Be aware, I'm just shizing around. You might be not that much fun to have around after 3 weeks of just a couch, Netflix, and Sushi Express. No, same with mushrooms. Empty? Very good, very good, very good. We will have more of it. Same with mushrooms, I can tell for sure. And hypothesis, it seems to be similar with tea plants. So when you have in your mind these rolling, wonderful tea plantations with the bushes, that might actually seldomly yield a high quality tea. Because it has everything it wants. It just has the right amount of light, just the perfect temperature, and all the nutritions it wants, and to get the yield really high, of course, also the farmer will use pesticides to even, to not share their yield with some insects, some pests. Because the idea here is to get the highest yield, the most amount of tea that you can have. So this tea is also harvested all year round, because you can do that to the tea plants. They grow and they're like... But Lipton buys that, or actually if you're in Turkey, then the Turkish state buys it. You get a really low price margin, but you can also not impact on that price because you have that contract with the Turkish state, right? So the best for you is to get the most tea out of your field. It's the only way you can make a profit. Now, if you have these 300-year-old tea trees that grow basically in the wild, and you pluck and you tend, and the family and blah blah, all this traditional stuff that families have tended in it for years and years, which we'll get to later, which is also a very interesting fact when it comes to the beads. How many beads?
Well, 2 more now.
Ah, yes, very good, thank you.
That good.
Yes, good. Achoo. Very good. When it comes to the question, who, like the notions of power, who's in power, who's making who do what? It's always the question. If we humans propagated apple trees, or if apple trees cultivated us humans to propagate them over a wide area. It's always open to debate, I guess. Morty. Absolutely agreed. Mushrooms are super suspicious. They are even older than plants, so probably some weird stuff going on. It's not like it's mathematically less possible that life, as we know it, originated on Earth. Then is it that life has been somehow imported to this planet? And if you look at the research results, that a lichen, a unholy union of a mushroom and a algae, can survive for extended periods in outer space. Now, and if you think about maybe a nice and frozen meteor. Well, let's not get this wrong. Meteor or meteorite? I think it's a meteor, not a meteorite. Meteor? Mm-hmm. Ha! Thank you. And there's some nice, maybe a little bit of air pocket or something, like a gas pocket inside of it somewhere. Maybe it's like very spongy material. Well, it wouldn't be too improbable that there's a lichen, and then upon impact on Earth, it survives the meltdown and all that, and then it might have spread on the planet. Totally likely. We don't have any evidence for anything for that. Totally not. Totally no evidence. Could be. Probabilities are just probabilities. Life could have as well originated on this planet. Why not? We don't know. We don't know anything. So, if I have these 300-year-old tea trees that sell out because it's an amazing tea, why should I put pesticides on it?
For it to die?
Hmm?
For it to die?
Oh, but it's a tree. It has lived 300 years. So, there's the...
To get exactly taste you want on that tea.
Yeah, but that would mean that I have to take the pesticides to that wild growing tree also, probably by foot. I mean, that's a lot of investment that I would need to make for a tea that already sells out. So basically I take this tea, and the moment I pluck it, or even before that, it's already sold out. Because I'm a producer, I don't sell like to you and me, I sell to tea sellers, and they know there's this person who has this amazing 300-year-old tea trees, and we know it's an amazing. And maybe you don't even process it yourself into pu'er. Maybe you sell it to a processor who's interested in your tea leaves to mix it within there. But I mean, this is all single estate tea. But of course, it's a mixture of tea trees. So the youngest tea it's like a little bit like whiskey. So the youngest tea tree is 300 years old. Approximately. I mean, we only know if we saw down the tree and count the rings. We're not going to do that, right? So basically, there's a big investment that I would need to get it certified. I mean, why I'm not using pesticides is to get it certified as organic, because I have a higher price margin, right? So then the price margin might actually not be too big. So I might have a big investment buying the pesticides, putting them there, to maybe increase my yield a little bit, to not share with those nasty insects. We hate insects because we're humans, we're soft on the outside and hard on the inside. We don't like things that are hard on the outside and soft on the inside. That's very suspicious, even more suspicious than mushrooms, who are, by the way, also have chitin in their cell walls. Suspicious. Chitin. Like insects. It might be more beneficial if I don't use pesticides on my not so good tea field that is kind of young and it's not the right elevation and it's a little bit on the wrong side of the mountain. If I get that certified as organic, I can sell it to those Europeans for quite a high price margin.
So, a little bit off topic, but first I'm gonna get to the point of kind of.
Feel free to be led astray.
Have you heard the story about the whole banana war situation? Are you aware of that? Basically, the first time bananas were imported to US, they were actually quite a bit different than what they are now. And basically what happened was Americans, they actually enjoyed the food so much, demand was insane. So basically, some rich guys, they basically, 2 more by the way.
Oh, thank you.
They basically colonized the whole island just to be capable of basically to keep up with demand. And the weirdest thing happened. That particular type of bananas, they actually developed this kind of like a disease, right? And once it starts,
It was a fungus.
what?
I think it was a fungus.
Might be, but the whole situation was it was basically uncurable, and well, the whole business would go down really quickly unless someone actually came up with like a new variety of bananas that were as similar to that original type of banana that people really enjoyed eating. Because there are like a lot of types of bananas out there actually. So eventually one British guy, he managed to breed a new type of banana that was as close as possible to the original banana that people consumed back in the day. Apparently it's not as creamy and it's not as soft and it's not as sweet, but the color is there, the shape is there, and well, you know, that type of banana now at the moment is the most popular type of banana actually that is being consumed all around the world. Basically there's only one company of banana. Anyways, sidetracked. By the way, the same thing is starting to happen again with this variety of bananas, right? So the old variety, it's extinct, it's gone. You can still buy it. There are still people who are actually growing the original 60s style banana, right?
Wow.
You can actually buy it from like Amazon, or if you can actually find a supplier. I mean, it's crazy expensive, but you can actually try it out and see how bananas back in the 60s tasted like compared to now. And probably in like 10 years time, the same thing is going to happen with the bananas that we're consuming today actually. And hopefully we're going to get like a new type, the new variety of banana that's going to replace the ones that we're kind of aware of and grew up with. A lot of people died because of this business, turns out. And a lot of, you know, let's say, really cruel decisions were made in order just to keep up with the demand. So anyways, what I was trying to say is probably over time, if you basically try to squeeze out as much as possible from one plant that gives out some type of fruit or tea or whatever, you might actually develop a disease. And that's going to be like a self-destruction mechanism kind of a thing, you know what I mean? So perhaps pesticides kind of prevent that from happening, or will basically prolong the whole thing, right? Because it's basically inevitable, just like animals. Plants do tend to extinct over time. So pesticides basically prolong that lifetime, the lifespan of whether a fruit or a plant or tea leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Like giving it, I mean, basically being aware that it's not there for us to take. It's like, I mean, they have an agenda on their own, and I mean...
It's kind of like with humans as well, don't you think? It's where, like, think about it, back in the day, like, long time ago, the lifespan of a human was, what, like 40 years, max?
Max.
Yeah, and now it's like close to 80, close to 100 actually. But
well, in our parts of the world, yes.
Yeah, but people do start to develop all the nasty diseases and whatnot. So
true, but we don't know if those, I mean, because people would never have gotten as old as they are getting now. Maybe it's the natural thing to happen.
Anyway, also. Sidetracked. I'm sorry.
No, wonderful. It's about getting sidetracked. Because I'm constantly getting sidetracked, as you might have noticed by now. Because there's a little bit also what this method is about. Yes, I mean, what is our topic anyway? Biotechnology. It was a very good contribution to biotechnology and how an ecosystem is impacted by a high demand. So with these teas, therefore, because now I get to the point that I actually wanted to get to. So these tea bushes that get everything they want, they don't produce an interesting tea because they just get everything they want. And you know, we always think that tea trees grow the best at the highest elevation. Actually, they don't. They want to grow at much further down because there's more oxygen, it's easier. But growing them in this height will make them produce certain aromatics that are interesting for us when we drink them. A good example that is less, you know, that's less in the wild is Japanese green tea. Japanese green tea is actually grown on plantations. So it's like this boring kind of tea, but the Japanese do this artificial stressing. So they know what they're doing, right? So they understand what's going on. And they're doing it for quite a while before they did the science and understood what they're actually doing. So there's this shading. You always get these expensive teas from Japan that are quite good. There's like shaded, 80% shaded, 90%. What does it mean? So basically, the tea leaves are growing in the sun. Wonderful. And then you start shading the plant, which is a stress to the plant. Everything else is fine. So it's like this is, when we will return and we will work with fungi here, then it becomes more obvious that one type of stress, while all other parameters are in the green, let's say, are quite beneficial. If you have like 2 stresses, then it starts to get a little bit, and with 3 stresses it might get overwhelming and your fungus will die. One good example is when you scratch a fungus on the petri dish, because it's kind of lame. It should be like more vigorous. That's lame. Let it just go. Of course, on the sterile condition, you just scratch it a little bit, and then will instantly get it to grow very vigorously because you kind of stressed it. It was like poking. It's like, come on, do something. It's like, what? What is this? Somebody scratch. Disgusting. I will grow and escape from this, whatever it is. Very anthropomorphizing. So this shading stresses the tea plant because it thinks, oh, something's blocking me. So I need to grow. I need to be bigger that the thing, possibly a tree, is blocking me. So it starts to produce a certain growth factor, you know, like dispersing all over the system, a metabolite that induces rapid growth. And then we shade it even more. So the plant thinks, shit, what's going on? It's even more shadow now. So it produces more of this growth factor. Yes. And then, at the height of the production of this growth factor, you pluck it. Now, why is this story interesting? Because this growth factor gets metabolized into a UV protection factor, which is good when you're growing in the sun. If you're not growing in the sun, you don't undergo this transformation into UV protection because you don't need it, you need to grow. Now this metabolite passes the blood-brain barrier and makes us happy. And it's legal. So this is a good example of understanding of what you are doing by understanding the life form that you are engaging within.
What's the name of this?
I have to look it up. That's why I'm being so shady. Because I forgot it. Because I read it and then I completely forgot it. Because I was being sidetracked probably. Something else. But I can look it up. If you're interested, I can look it up. And
this UV protection is not the substance that makes us happy. It's the thing that is produced before it then gets metabolized into the UV protection factor. So that's why this shading has like a double function, because it produces a lot of that metabolite and then is not transforming it into an, for us, inert metabolite. Is that the same as coffee bean as well?
I don't know nothing about coffee beans. But it's not caffeine, although caffeine overall helps in making happy.
No? Whew, it's like, you can throw names at me. I don't know. I literally, I don't know. I would have to, I need to look it up. Actually, I was thinking about looking it up. And then I thought like, I just go blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, probably people won't be interested in that. They won't really ask for that. Very, very good that you proved me wrong. Wonderful, wonderful. Now I will do my homework. I will look it up. 2 more, right?
Yeah.
Good. So, having stress produces aromatics that we are interested in as apes. Yeah. No, it's a long thing to go for such an easy thing. Yeah. Well, I think the next thing is that you should actually get to work. Where are those things? Because I was blah blah blahing enough, you know, I could endlessly blah blah blah. And if you come to more workshop or start to work here, you will be subject to me blah blah blahing. Think about it if you really want that. But now I think it's the time that you start working with these adorable little guy ones. And 2 teams, perfect. And well, you take turns in brewing, I guess. True. And no, it will be interesting for you to brew it yourself, and maybe some questions will come up. If not, I will point you towards, because it actually is a high-tech tool. For example, you see, the plants have expanded, the leaves. No, start smelling it again. No, because we have drunken quite a little bit out of it. So it has changed its flavor profile, right? And we have not even been talking about how the tea tastes. It's all just about everything else. And this is half the size of this one, so you have to adjust accordingly to what's on the back. And maybe a little bit to the production of tea, because you will be brewing a fancy tea, because we're fancy people, we do fancy things. So you will prepare an oolong, actually, because oolongs are, when it comes to biotechnology, super fancy, because it comes with a level of understanding, especially this one. And because we're Lithuania, that means we love Taiwan, right? We love Taiwan. We hate China, we love Taiwan. The Taiwanese produce an amazing oolong. I mean, for me personally, they produce the best oolongs. They know what they're doing. I mean, Taiwan is amongst the most developed democracies of the world, much higher than everything we have in Europe, by the way. And they also know about tea. So there's the Tea Research Institute of Taiwan. And they produce the cultivar number 18, if I'm not lying. So sometimes you get these, milky oolongs. You can get them in Rimi. They're sold by some Estonian, I think it's just a Rimi house brand. They're not bad. It's good tea, you know? Rimi am I making advertisement for Rimi? No, totally not. Don't buy tea at Rimi. Buy good tea. Support single estate tea families and sellers. But milky oolong is often fraudulent, sadly. They tell you these stories that it's steamed in milk. That's bullshit. That's 100% bullshit. It's the cultivar. It's the cultivar number 18, which has been cultivated in the 1980s by the Taiwanese Tea Research Institute. And if you prepare it just right, and we get to that in a moment, how oolong is made, it just has this toffee flavor of slightly caramelized milk. Amazing. But there's no milk inside. So it's completely vegan. There's no milk inside. This milky oolong that you can buy at Rimi, it's flavored. Oolongs.
are, and especially this one, I also don't know. It's like we also have to do research on this. I knew it, but I forgot it. Why I have such a bad brain? Yes. You needed to go into brewing. No, you will not use a gong dao bei, because this is. I want you to find out how you pour every one. I mean, you will be obviously 2 groups. Every group gets a guy one. We'll take turns in preparing it. Gets an equalized cup. Shouldn't be too hard, right? But it's, I mean, in the brain it's quite easy. But, it's something that also needs to be in the fingers. Also, you will burn your fingers, don't worry. It's a rite of passage. It's important. And if you burn your fingers, you know what you got to do, right? You're professionals, right? What do you do when you burn your fingers? And yeah? You touch your
What?
that thing of the body. What's it called? Yes, earlobe. Thank you. Yes, you touch your earlobe. Because it's magic, right? No. The earlobe is very, very. There's lots of blood circulation. So if you touch that hot part, it just really takes away the heat quicker. Good to know. So here's the tea. It has been processed for high GABA content. Yeah, what does that mean? That's the fun part. So people, start brewing. Everything's there. And there's this thing. Quite self-explanatory. Set, and then it goes on 100, and then you can go 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, or you can go actually in single increments, as you like, and then you just hit. Oh, no, actually, no.
6 grams?
Think about it. The 6 grams are for 100 milliliter. This is not 100 milliliter. I can tell you that it's roughly the half. It's not. This is not an intellectual game, you know. It's like I'm not keeping away things from you.
It looks less than half, somehow.
It looks less than half. Yes. I mean, you could weigh it basically.
Oh, yeah.
You could weigh the water that fits in. But you can also just wing it. No, while you're having fun with using your hands and engaging in some tea touching and everything, which is good, how it should be. I will start to blah blah a little bit about oolongs, how tea is actually made, and about something else that I forgot. No, what was it? Maybe when I walk a little bit, maybe that helps. Ah yes, GABA. What is GABA? There's a little bit word around GABA. GABA. You know, it's been in the 90s, in Holland, there was some good GABA music. Nowadays, hard to find. No, it's about something else. I'm making bad jokes. That far into tea drinking. Perfect. So GABA is. I will now look on Wikipedia, so I'm not pronouncing it wrong. It's a certain metabolite, to be imprecise. Yeah, just. And now you can set the exactly, and then you just press that again, and then it heats up. So there's a GABA receptor in your brain. So basically, it's very close to a neurotransmitter in our brain. And there's preliminary research that shows that it might pass the blood-brain barrier. It's always hard to interpret these research papers because they're done in vitro. That means like it's not happening in a real body. It's happening in a petri dish. And all the things that happen in a petri dish might not at all happen in a body. Well, clear.
But there's been long been standing the research result that the GABA progenitor, no. How much degrees? 99. Oh, okay, yeah. So now it's on. And it shows the temperature, and then it will beep, because it likes to beep at you. And then when it's green and beeps, then it will be the right temperature. It's an amazing piece of technology. Was the least shittiest Chinik that I could buy. All the others on the market, really. Weird stuff. It's Japan. Japan produces lots of parts on my bicycle that are actually cheap and good are from Japan. We're filming this. Is this already racist, what I'm doing? I'm not sure. So, basically, it's close to a neurotransmitter that is in our brain. It's not the same neurotransmitter, and we don't even know if it really passes the blood-brain barrier. Blood and brain. Microphones and bones. But if it does, that would not only be amazing, but also big fun. So I want you to drink that tea, and just, find out how the effect of it while you drink it. It's super fancy. So oolongs are in general super fancy. So you know that all these different types of tea are from the same leaves. You can make any kind of tea from any kind of tea leaves. It's like black pepper and green pepper and white pepper. It's all from the same plant. Yes. Red pepper is just dried. White pepper is shelled and then dried. And green pepper is, well, the original berries are actually green, and then you can preserve them or go crazy into fermentation. There's like some amazing fermented peppers out there. It's a completely different field. It's amazing. Totally pepperhead. Oh, there's some pepper stuff that you don't even put on something. You just snack on it, like single pepper berry. It's so amazing, like fermented, salty, umami, spicy. It's like you pop it like a pill and chew on it. It's just amazing. I don't know about the health benefits, but it just tastes great.
It's up to you, really, isn't it?
It's up to you, but you see that it's a ball rolled along. That means like really, really tight. So it needs more heat, and it might.
The temperature is dropping.
I'm not interfering. You're brewing it. I would wash this tea for sure, because it has. Oh yeah. Give me a second. I will give you a very, very high-tech tool where you can dispose of. Yes, here. Just pour everything that you don't want to drink inside here. Bam.
How do you wash it?
Like this.
Very sharply, or does it have a specific amount of time?
There's no specific amount of time.
Okay.
Basically, it depends on. Oh, yes. You see. Ah, very good. Learning to use the tool. I will not say further. It's wonderful. Well, are your fingers burned?
No.
So then it's the right way.
It's like well, I have some practice.
Smell the tea leaves. Smell the tea leaves. Have fun.
Right, okay, so can we set the temperature?
Yes.
And it can be any number I can choose.
From 50 to 96 and then 100 again, because it does not go 97. 69.
Yeah.
Or did you want this one?
Can we do 69?
You can do 69.
Let's do 69.
But I think then we have to put in some cool water, because now it's up to 100.
Yeah.
But that's also good. We're not wasting water, because that's actually good for this. Now let's see what's the temperature.
But here's what I would like to do.
78.
How can we do our Or do we need to
Hmm?
Can we brew our tea as well?
No, you have to. You have to. You have to. You have to.
Alright.
So
Okay.
can we wash the tea
Oh yeah,
in
good idea.
a 69-degree temperature,
Oh my god.
and then we can raise the temperature just slightly. Once I actually gonna start brewing it.
How's this? Is this one?
Can you do that?
Maybe for our cooking? Slightly longer, 16? Crazy.
32. That's gonna be the temperature is slightly lower.
No, operate the Chinek yourself. Then. No?
25.
Yeah.
Well, I will go on blah blahing about Oolong and about GABA. I will even not be there because then you know it's like you have to. We stand behind the cameras. No, don't worry. So, it produces the, let's say, very interesting metabolite that we are interested in because we are interested in all kinds of things in general. Very interested. Apes are, that's the one thing that apes are. They are curious. So all research is spurred by curiosity, if it's scientific or artistic or the third kind of research that I forgot about. We're curious. So, I'm curious if this tea will make you feel good, mellow, relaxed, maybe, as it should be, or not. And Oolong is like black tea, but then treated like a green tea to make things super confusing. So basically what you do when you pluck the tree, the leaves from the tree. So you go and pluck them, and then it depends on the time when you pluck it. Because in winter, it will go into dormancy. And so the first leaves of the year, they will be filled with aromatics for several reasons. Because these aromatics are stored, and also these are the first leaves, so the tree plant does not want them to be eaten by the first insects that are also coming out of dormancy or just fresh out of their pupae and want to feast on these delicious teas. So it will pack it with aromatics. So it's good when we have like a 300-year-old tea or something, because it will, it will be knowledgeable. It will have stored this. That is actually this milky variety, Ruby number 18. Funny enough, but it does not say how old are those. Well, no, probably not that old, because that cultivar is only from the 80s, so it cannot be a 300-year-old tea tree, obviously. I'm not stupid. So, when you pluck the tea leaves and you pluck them in spring, they are full of aromatics. So we might have a tendency to be tempted to make white tea out of it. I have probably heard about white tea, like this silver hairy. So it's hairy because these are the buds, and the buds will develop into full-grown leaves eventually. Now we pluck the tea leaves and we lay them to wither. We do that in the sun or inside, depends on the production. So there are endless possibilities. Are you brewing your teas?
Oh, we are waiting for that.
Ah, very good. How many times do I have to blah blah? So, when you make this, you pluck them. It depends on when you pluck them. Then you wither them. So it means you just lay them there and they wither. Super high-tech stuff. Just wither and just wait. And what is happening now is that inside the leaves there are certain enzymes, and they will start a decaying process. So it starts breaking down itself via the enzymes. And the tea producers let it wither, and occasionally smell it and taste it and look at it, and because they have experience, because they co-evoluted with their tea plants maybe over 3, 5, 6 or more generations, they know what they're looking for. No, because they drink the tea, they taste the tea, they know what is possible and they know what is good. So they take the tea leaves, if they're making green tea, and then they stop the enzymatic activity, like we would boil an egg. We just denaturate the enzymes, the proteins, through heat. It's the easiest way, and it needs to be dry anyway. So in China, you would do this in woks, like big steel pans. In Japan, you would steam it. So the steaming process gets more out of this algae flavors, like seaweed or something. While the roasting process brings in like some nutty flavors. But you don't want to, overdo it, so it will get smoky. There is a smoke tea for people who enjoy smoke teas, a lapsang souchong, very traditional tea that is smoked over pines. That's a whole different story, something else. So you have the tea leaf enzymatic activity at its best, and then you stop it. And the next thing is that you probably just dry it, either in the sun or in a drum, several endless ways of doing it. But basically the tea is ready, it just needs to get dry. And you can also roll it like this is rolled, or do all kinds of stuff to it. For example, the Japanese shaded teas, then they get very roughly rolled, so they break down into small bits. So that's why you cannot extract too often from them, because they're small. New oolongs are more processed like a black tea. So in a black tea, we never stop the enzymatic activity. We let it oxidize till it is, we call it fully oxidized. Well, it means like something around 80% oxidized, because it never fully oxidizes. And by the way, the Chinese refer to what we call black tea, red tea. Because for them it's not red. But basically also if you make if you brew a black tea, it's seldomly black. It's kind of reddish. So black teas would be referred to post-fermented teas, but then we get all confused with Western and Chinese way of naming teas. So oolongs are heavily rolled, and we get to why that is important while you're brewing, because it's interesting for the way you're brewing. So you're rolling it vigorously, so you're breaking open the cells in the leaves, and you depositing those juices on the outside of the leaves where they heavily oxidize. Just to keep in mind, the juices are now on the outside of the leaf, not anymore on the inside of the leaf. Bear that in mind. And so it continues to oxidize and continues to oxidize. It passes the threshold that would classify it as a green tea, because it's not green anymore. And just before it becomes, and there's like, in oolongs, there's like also infinite ways of stopping it. So you can stop it at 20% fermentation, oxidation, 30%, and so on and so on. But it means you stop it. So you don't let it fully oxidize like you would be with a black tea. At some point you decide, now it's just the right time, and then you stop it by heating it up. It has been done with this tea. So it's rather dark, but it's still not a black tea, because the enzymatic activity has been artificially stopped. Now, what has been here is even more interesting. So oxidizing means a reaction with oxygen. Clever. And in order to get this GABA metabolite that's close to our brain neurotransmitter, you don't. Part of the oxidizing is, like the enzymatic activity, is not done in oxygen-rich environment. It's done in a nitrogen-rich environment. Nitrogen, inert gas, triple bond in our air, makes up most of the air, the gas that we breathe. Only 4% is oxygen. 4%, that's good that it's that low, or everything would combust spontaneously into flames. So what happens now is that this certain GABA kind of metabolite is not broken down and it remains inside there. Super fancy tea. Perfect to cure hangovers. No, that's oolong tea. Oh, any questions? I mean, we're only grazing upon some topics now. We cannot go into brewing in clay, how clay interacts with tea. Super amazing, super amazing. Very interesting. Or, but what I wanted to say is why it's interesting. Because there's this small guy one, and there's this big guy one. So, you remember that on the outside, during the rolling, we deposit the juices. The juices dry up there. When we constrict our leaves in the guy one, that means we're shifting towards extracting from the outside of the leaf rather than from the inside of the leaves. Sometimes you hear people say like, "Ooh, it's the best when the tea leaves float completely freely. They shouldn't be constricted. Oh my God, don't use any of those devices, blah, blah, because you will constrict the tea, you will not get a good tea." It's bullshit. I mean, you should know why you do it. So, let's go into what we extract from the tea. The hotter we extract, the more bitterness we extract, and the more astringency we get in our cup. Not well in the cup, but also in the mouth. This is where we feel it, because our bodies are these amazing high-tech tools that tell us actually about the concentration of certain chemicals within a solution. Amazing. I mean, it's like crazy. It's like chromatography, but in your mouth. That is the right reaction. Yes, sir. It's like amazing. So, the hotter we extract, the more astringency, the more bitterness we get out. It's like certain, would need to lie now, polyphenols, catechins. No, you can watch. You know how to use the internet, and you got phones. So I also. That's why I don't know, because it's in my phone. It's on the internet. I don't know. Forget about these things. It wants your attention now. It's a very attention-hungry thing. So, how you pour on the leaves is also not unimportant. Think about it. So, the cooler we brew, the less bitterness, the less astringency we get out of our leaves. That means the brew is sweeter. No, it depends.
So I was going to do like 8 to 9. Can we do 8 to 9?
Second? No, not second. Second?
No, not the first brew. We watched it. Actually, I want to change it to 7 to 9. It's about 8 to the moment. So just keep that 10-degree difference. Oh, we're there. So we're good to go.
Yeah, so 25 seconds?
Let's do 20. Let's do 20.
Careful how you pour it in 25.
So, because my logic is, if the heat, slightly overpoured, I think. So the more heat, the more bitter it becomes, doesn't it? Is that the right logic?
That is the right logic.
Right. And I
But-
don't want it bitter,
Yes.
so I would rather keep the
20
temperature
seconds.
slightly lower.
No. Don't use the Gongdao Bay. Equalize in the cups. Yeah, but you will need the lid on the guy one. And also, don't be afraid if it's a little bit, few seconds too much, because you're learning. And also, make a mess. Normally Normally at a proper Gung Fu session we would have something that would collect all this. No, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine, it's fine. You're learning, you're learning. Don't be discouraged. It's part of everything.
Thank you.
It's totally fine. As it should be. Make a mess. Said to be totally not impacting anything. It sounds shady. And it's inside there so you don't have calcium buildup in your pipes. But what I found out after reusing the same, these glass dishes in the autoclave for, I think it was autoclaving 3 or 4 days straight. Like with cool down and everything to get all that water, because I could only fit, I think 4 liter was the max that I could fit in the autoclave. And then I had this strange, clear, crusty build-up, which almost looked like amorphous glass. I felt like, what is this?
Just like 2 cans of vodka out of your pocket, just like take a bite and put it back. And if it was tasty, that would be amazing. Then it just like hits you up and
Interesting idea.